focus has been on Facebook rapist Thabo Besta's elaborate escape from prison. His romance with an aesthetics doctor has become the subject of much speculation. Nandipha Magudumana has been implicated in Besta's escape and is facing several charges herself. Did she risk it all for love? In the special feature, senior reporter Lindile Masakane looks at what we've uncovered about the now not-so-good doctor.
She was born in Bizana in the Eastern Cape and raised in the town of Port Edward. In previous interviews, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana says she wanted to be a doctor from the age of 6. After obtaining a BSc in Health Sciences from Wits University, she went on to study medicine and spent some time in public healthcare. She then founded her own aesthetics practice in Sandton called Optimum Medical Solutions. A childhood friend says growing up, Magudumana was focused.
She was a well-behaved, focused individual that mainly read books and studied. And it's just a shock as to how this can come about because we never saw it coming growing up. She was studying and then obviously she was doing a bit of modeling and Thabo Besta came about or she applied or put her portfolio out there and this is where he snapped her up there and led her in this track astray. And it shocked me seriously. As I had known that she was married and living with a partner. So to find out that she's now involved with supposed convicts, I was startled.
So it's come as a shock that a beautiful, intelligent woman like Dr. Nandipha could be affiliated with a convicted murderer and rapist. According to her brother, Thabo Besta was introduced to the family as a business mentor.
Nancy, explain to me what you understood of the relationship between Nandipha and Besta. Were they colleagues? Were they in a relationship? Were they married?
I never spent a lot of time with her during those times. But as I'm saying that, she did phone me about the Showmax job, getting paid 120,000. And she did phone me about the job, but we never had conversations or things like that. So I carried on thinking he's a mentor, really, TJ.
Okay, so to your understanding, he was introduced as Nandipha's mentor.
As Nandipha's business mentor, yes.
Okay.
And Nandipha came because we also asked, this money, these cars, this house, turning it new, it was an old house. And then the answer is from Nandipha that she got 700 million rands from ITC. And I found that very hard to believe, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
I found it very hard to believe.
When correctional services confirmed that Besta was alive and well, Dr. Nandipha was nowhere to be found.
Have you been in touch with your daughter by any chance?
No, I don't know wherever she is.
Has she been in touch with you?
One time she was in touch with me when all this fracas started.
And what did she say to you?
No, she was asking about her mom's health.
Okay.
And she said she's in hiding.
Did she say why she was in hiding? Did she explain to you?
I know. She didn't even need to explain to me. I know what was happening there in Johannesburg.
And are you perhaps worried about her?
Very worried. How can I not be worried about my daughter? I don't want any person to know my whereabouts because I don't trust anybody. It's a very sensitive matter. I've left it to the people to do their investigations and all that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people involved from whatever it is. status of that one involvement. I don't want to disturb, I don't want to talk.
Yeah. Did you perhaps know that your daughter was involved with this man who was in prison?
No.
It's been revealed that the aesthetics doctor lived in this lavish Hyde Park mansion with Bester for 10 months after his escape from the Mangaung prison. It's alleged Zanda Moyo, accused number 9 in the escape saga, assisted Dr. Nandipha to claim Katlego Bereng's body from a government hospital. Bereng's body was planted in Bester's cell in an attempt to fake his own death.
Re bohloko hleng batho modimo a ke sa batla go bua ntho tse ngata re bohloko ke ntho e ntseng ka Katlego bana ngwana ka muntu a mong Katlego ne seng o thwa leqhoko hobaneng yena ntate ha tshwanetse hore a felle bophelo ba bo fele lefatsheng ha bohloko tje
According to the police, Dr. Nandipha then pretended to be Bester's customary wife and attempted to cremate Bereng's body. This plan was foiled when Bester's mother intervened.
Ngusahla efemeng ho thwa o shwele. Ha o thwa o shwele ska motswadi ha ona motswadi ka lahla ngwana hae. Ke jampa nna ke re hao. Ngwana o hlokaetse ene so na le motho a batlang mo pata. How re ke step ke bona re na ke tsa jwa ke pushwa go buti ba bona tsa ba fan shelter time shelter transport o re ke ka lo kopa thuso ke be ke thola thuso ga le bona sa la Bloemfontein le nthusa le re ho nna Thabo stop sa o stote se Orlando Moshar le bona sa la Bloemfontein le tle mo ha le re lo etsa di DNA test re tsamaya le lona ka tsamaya le lona ra lo etsa di DNA testing thong mafatsana somewhere hona mo mafatsana ba tseba di a ke tse ba di etsa kae mara ke hona mo runeng ga etsa di DNA ha re qeta ho etsa di DNA ka khutla ka tla hae ha khutla ke tla hae le pone sa le mama ha never ka lwana DNA ke go sia hae nna ke ya ke le wana DNA a ya le wana DNA a ngena go telele di DNA di sa kana go tenne thapo kana go tenne thapo ha khutla ha mfile results
Nandipha, do you know her? Do you know that maybe she was in a relationship?
Indaba ka Nandipha yokuthi uNandipha ushade noThaba angiyazi uNandipha bengiqala ukumbona uNandipha uvela uThaba makasa kashonile kuthiwa uNandipha umfazi kaThaba futhi unabantwana bayijuna mina ngithi why all the time bengingavelanga angikhulumi kabi and then bese uThaba ke uNandipha bese ngithi kuyena angifonele ngithi phoyisa limtrace lemfoni angifonele athi kimi mama ngizoza lapha ngizokutshela le ndaba qala uze kayiwani wafika wangitshela ukuthi bona noThabo bashada abaqeda ukushada baba nabantwana bayi2 yena labantwana laba balike iyabiphelele lapho.
And then you found out that she wants to cremate the body, but you were against that.
No, angeke ngivume ngomama nawe ngeke uvume ukuthi umntana kafihla umuntu ongamazi mara uyazi ukuthi umntana anyway yaphila. Uyabona into iqale lapho ukuthi ungavuma kanjani ukuthi umntana noma bathi udopu noma kunya uphelele estradini igot makafila uzomdopa lapha umise moshari yakho umfihla. That is problem. And then na kuri hakina anything to do with this. Untata ba ka fela ne ke ipetela setupu sa ngwana ka jwale nna ke tlamele ke blowe ka baka la setupu sa ngwana ka.
Sources revealed to ENCA that on the 11th of January 2023, Bester and Dr. Nandipha fled their Hyde Park mansion to a property they were renting in Coralane. They then realized they need to move to an unknown location. They check into the Hyde Park Southern Sun with the children from the 4th until the 14th of March. On the 15th of March, Bester and Dr. Nandipha moved to a B&B. On the 16th of March, Dr. Nandipha drops her children off at school. The school contacts their father to collect them after she fails to fetch them. The pair then flee the country via the Beitbridge border. Track and trace teams follow them into Bulawayo on the 17th of March. Between the 18th and 19th of March, they drive up to Zambia, moving towards Tanzania. On the 8th of April, the pair are apprehended in Arusha, Tanzania, with a Mozambican accomplice. Sources confirmed that Dr. Nandipha was in possession of 2 passports belonging to an associate, Dr. Mmereka Njani, also known as Dr. Pashi. Dr. Pashi's foundation then released a statement saying it's learned that her identity may have been stolen and it's seeking legal advice. Since her return from Tanzania, Magudumana has been fighting for her freedom. She claims she was abducted by state officials and has attempted to have her arrest and deportation set aside.
Was Dr. Magudumana consenting to a disguised extradition? To whom was the consent made? We're not told. When was the consent made? Was it after Home Affairs exercised the unlawful power under Section 41 of the Immigration Act to arrest her using a South African piece of legislation in a foreign country? We of course know from the principal arguments that provision is of no assistance to Home Affairs, and we also know that the reliance on the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations is of no assistance. We've made those arguments already. So when was consent made? To whom was it made? Under what circumstances was it made? Is it clear? Is it unequivocal? Is it in writing? None of those facts appear in the answering affidavit.
What I do not hear and what I do not understand from this argument's profit is why the applicant is said to have consented to an illegality. On what basis? She wanted to come home, she came home. Doesn't suit her, because when she came home, she was arrested at the airport.
There's a vast difference between disguised extradition and consent.
For the first time since their deportation, Bester and Dr. Nandipha were reunited in the dock. South Africans were glued to their screens and social media abuzz in anticipation of their interaction. A body language expert says the reunion wasn't as rosy as it looked.
From the beginning, before he arrived, as Dr. Nandi was sitting there, she was fiddling a lot with her hands. So in body language, we look at what are we doing constantly. So she's constantly fiddling with her hands. In body language, that's a self-soothing. That means she's quite anxious. It's an anxious day. She should be. Then they have, somebody asked them, where is accused number 5 going to sit? And she starts fiddling with her earrings. She wants to put her earrings in, and she curls up on herself. She leans forward. And as they start talking about where he's going to sit, they literally put their hand behind her to say he's sitting next to her. She curls down even further. Now, when we curl down like that, it's extreme anxiety. So to me, that says she's really nervous seeing him. When they did interact and they met, there was a friendly face. She didn't smile all the way to her eyes. With body language, we look for fake smiles and real smiles. There wasn't a real smile on her face. It was fake. She's quite nervous. Her arm came around her stomach. Now, women do this to protect their bodies.
Yes.
Fear, vulnerable, they feel threatened. So there was a lot of that going on with her. Also, from different angles that I watched, she moved her body away from his. Now, we call that distancing behavior. She couldn't move a lot because there was so much. There wasn't a lot of space. But she did. She used, the man next to her was being squeezed and squeezed. I literally saw her move away. So when we look at body language, we look a little bit deeper. I do think there's something up. She did a little bit of he asked her something we couldn't hear, and she said something like, I know, and then we call that a tongue jut. So now it all happens at a subconscious level. When we do this, it's almost like you're pushing out the words it's a distaste in your mouth. So whatever he said to her, she's not quite happy with what he said. You know, so I do think, look, there was a time where he took a lint off her and she took something off his beard.
They also held hands.
They also, but very quickly. And then you see him let go of her hand. He actually lets go. He moves his body forward from her. There's angles where I can see she wants his attention. She craves it, but I do think he's manipulated her into being very vulnerable around him. So I saw a lot of vulnerability there, and I do think from what I read and from what I've seen, I do think there's going to be something coming.
For now, Dr. Nandipha remains behind bars. She's reserved her right to apply for bail and will be back in court on the 11th of October. Questions remain on whether Magudumana risked it all for love or whether she's a victim herself.